The air inside the great chamber was heavy with silence. Daniel Hayes, a lone human explorer, walked slowly across the polished floor of the alien palace. His boots echoed with each step, though the sound quickly faded in the massive hall. The chamber stretched high above him, with golden pillars carved into shapes of strange creatures, and banners woven from shimmering threads that glowed like starlight. Daniel had visited many worlds in his travels, but never had he seen something so majestic and intimidating. The throne of the alien queen stood on a raised platform, guarded by tall warriors in shining armor. Their faces were hidden behind masks shaped like beasts, their weapons glowing faintly with energy. Every eye in the room seemed fixed on him, a lone human small compared to the towering aliens around him. He swallowed nervously. He had been invited, or perhaps summoned, by the rulers of this empire, the Valeron Dominion, a civilization so old that their history stretched back before Earth had even learned to write. Many believed the Valarans were proud and unyielding, never bowing, never bending. Daniel had expected scorn or at least arrogance. What he found instead was a silence that felt almost sacred. The queen sat upon her throne, cloaked in flowing robes of deep silver. Her crown was not made of jewels but of living crystal, glowing faintly with light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Her eyes, large and dark, seemed to look not only at Daniel's face but deep into him, as if she were searching for something hidden within his soul. Daniel stopped at the center of the hall and bowed politely, unsure of what was expected. His heart raced in his chest. He was only a man from Earth, not a warrior, not a great leader. Why had he been called here? Why had the alien empire chosen him? Before he could speak, the queen rose from her throne. The guards tensed, their spears crossing in front of her as though to protect her from some unseen danger. But the queen lifted her hand and they obeyed, stepping back in silence. Then, to Daniel's complete shock, the queen moved down from her throne. She descended the steps slowly, every eye in the chamber watching. The nobles whispered among themselves, their voices filled with disbelief. No one understood what was happening. Daniel's mind spun with confusion. He had heard stories of alien courts where outsiders were tested or mocked, but never in his wildest imagination had he expected what happened next. The queen stopped a few feet in front of him. Her gaze locked on his, and for a long moment the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a graceful motion, the queen lowered herself onto one knee. Her head bowed low and her hand pressed against the floor in a gesture of deep respect. Gasps filled the chamber. Some nobles cried out in protest, others in awe. The alien guards shifted uneasily, their armor clinking as they looked at one another. Never in living memory had the queen of the Valeran Dominion knelt before anyone. Daniel stood frozen. His mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. The most powerful ruler of an ancient empire was kneeling. To him, a simple human. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His throat felt dry and his thoughts tangled in confusion. Why was she doing this? What did she see in him? The queen spoke at last, her voice strong yet filled with reverence. The words came through a translator device on Daniel's wrist, turning her alien language into English. "We have waited for countless ages," the queen said softly, "and now the one has come." Daniel blinked. I don't understand." The queen raised her head slightly, her eyes glowing faintly with light. "Our prophecies told of a being who would come from the stars. Not of power in body, but of power in spirit. A fragile form yet unbroken, a flame that no storm could extinguish. When I look upon you, human, I know you are the one foretold." The chamber erupted in noise. Alien lords shouted, their voices sharp and angry. Some demanded proof. Others accused the queen of lowering herself before a weak and unworthy outsider. The guards gripped their weapons, uncertain whether to defend their queen's choice or prepare for violence. Daniel took a step back, his heart pounding. This was madness. He wasn't a chosen one. He wasn't a hero. He was just Daniel Hayes, an explorer trying to understand the galaxy. He had no great power, no hidden strength. Why would anyone kneel to him? Yet the queen remained where she was, her eyes steady, her posture humble. She seemed certain, as if she saw something that no one else could. Daniel felt the weight of every eye in the room pressing on him. He wanted to deny it, to tell them all that they were wrong. But deep inside, he felt something stir, a strange sense that his presence here was not an accident. Maybe the queen truly believed he was part of something greater. The nobles continued to argue, their voices rising like thunder. The queen finally stood, her robes flowing around her like silver waves. She raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent once more. "This man," she declared, her voice ringing across the hall, "is not to be mocked or doubted. The flame within him is clear to me, and I will honor it. He will be tested, yes, but the prophecy has begun." Daniel's stomach tightened. Tested? What kind of test? He wanted to protest, to tell them he wasn't ready for any of this. But as he looked around at the alien faces, some filled with anger, others with curiosity, he realized there was no turning back. The Queen's words had marked him. Whatever destiny or prophecy she spoke of, he was now part of it. As the guards led him out of the chamber, Daniel's thoughts raced. He didn't know what trials awaited him, or why the Queen believed he was special. All he knew was that humanity had just been thrust into the heart of an ancient mystery, and somehow he was standing at the center of it. The corridors of the Velaran Palace were long, tall, and filled with glowing light from crystals embedded in the walls. Daniel Hayes followed two armored guards who walked in silence, their footsteps echoing against the stone. His thoughts swirled with confusion. Moments ago, the most powerful queen in the galaxy had knelt before him. Now he was being led away like some honored guest, or perhaps like a prisoner. He wasn't sure. Daniel tried to keep calm, but questions raced through his mind. Why did she kneel? What prophecy was she talking about? And most of all, why him? He was no warrior, no great leader. He was just a man from Earth with a curious heart and a love for exploration. The guard stopped in front of a wide set of doors. They opened without a sound, revealing a chamber lit with warm golden light. Inside, the Queen sat at a round table, her crystal crown glowing faintly. Several alien lords and advisors stood nearby, their faces tense and filled with suspicion. "Enter," the Queen said, her voice soft yet commanding. Daniel stepped inside, and the doors closed behind him. The Queen studied him for a long moment before speaking. "You are wondering why I bowed," she said. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, I don't understand. I'm just human. Nothing special." The Queen's lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. "That is where you are mistaken. Long ago, before even our empire was strong, a vision was given to the seers. They spoke of a fragile one, born under a distant sun, who would carry a fire not of weapons but of will. This one would stand unbroken where others fall, and would remind us of the meaning we lost." Daniel blinked, unsure how to respond. But why me? There are billions of humans. Why not someone stronger or smarter or braver? Before the Queen could answer, one of the alien lords stepped forward angrily. His armor gleamed with red light and his eyes burned with doubt. "My Queen, forgive me, but this is foolishness. This human is weak. Look at him. His form is soft, his body fragile. How can he be the one of prophecy? Surely it is a mistake." Others joined in, their voices sharp. "Humans are new to the stars. They have no great fleets, no grand armies. We should not bow to such a simple creature." Daniel felt their scorn like a weight pressing against his chest. He wanted to defend himself, but the words caught in his throat. How could he argue with being so old, so powerful? The Queen raised her hand and silence fell. Her eyes glowed faintly as she turned to Daniel again. "They do not see what I see," she said. "But I cannot ignore their voices. They demand proof, and so do I. If you are truly the one, then the flame within you will shine through any trial." Daniel swallowed hard. "Trial?" "Yes," the Queen said firmly. "The trial of resolve. It is a test older than our empire itself. Those who face it must endure challenges of body, mind, and spirit. Many have tried and most have failed. Even our strongest warriors struggle. If you succeed, then none will doubt the prophecy. If you fail," she paused, her eyes softening slightly, "then you are free to return to your world and this matter will be forgotten." Daniel's heart pounded. A trial? Against alien challenges? He had no training, no weapons, no special abilities. But as he looked around the room, he realized he had no choice. The Queen's reputation, the prophecy, perhaps even humanity's honor, all of it rested on him. He took a slow breath. "I'll do it," the alien lords muttered among themselves, surprised by his answer. Some laughed quietly, convinced he would fail. Others frowned as if uncertain. The Queen nodded.
"Very well."
The trial will begin at dawn. That night, Daniel was given a chamber to rest in. The walls glowed softly, and a window revealed the alien sky outside. 2 moons hung above the horizon, casting silver light across the land. Daniel sat by the window, staring out. His thoughts were heavy. He thought of Earth, of the blue oceans and green forests, of his family and friends far away. He wondered if he would ever see them again. He whispered to himself, "Why me? What do they see that I can't?" But deep inside, another voice whispered back, "Because you won't give up." He remembered the struggles of his people, how humanity had survived storms, plagues, wars, and endless challenges. They were not the strongest species, but they always found a way. Maybe that was what the Queen saw. Maybe that was the flame she spoke of. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of fire, storms, and strange voices calling his name. The next morning, the trial grounds were prepared. A vast arena stretched across the open plain, its walls carved with ancient symbols. Alien spectators gathered in silence, watching from high seats. The Queen sat in a throne overlooking the field, her eyes calm but intense. Daniel stood at the center, feeling very small under the gaze of thousands. His clothes were simple and he carried no weapon. Around him, strange machines stirred and gates opened to reveal the challenges ahead. One of the alien lords stepped forward, his voice booming across the arena. "The trial of resolve begins. Let this human prove his worth or fall as many before him." The first challenge began. A storm of acid rain poured from the sky, burning through stone and metal. Daniel had seconds to react. He spotted fragments of old shields scattered on the ground, remnants of past challengers. Grabbing one, he held it above his head, sprinting toward a series of caves for cover. The shield sizzled as drops struck it, but Daniel kept moving, refusing to stop. Spectators murmured. Many had expected him to fall immediately, but he had adapted quickly. The second challenge followed, a shifting maze of walls that moved like living stone. Every turn closed behind him, and the path twisted endlessly. Daniel stopped, breathing hard. He realized brute force would not work. Instead, he studied the movement of the walls, noticing a rhythm, like a heartbeat. Timing his steps, he slipped through gaps just as they opened, advancing deeper into the maze. Again, the crowd murmured. He was not strong, but clever. The third challenge was the hardest yet. A chamber guarded by towering machines, their eyes glowing red. They were built for battle, designed to crush intruders. Daniel had no weapon, only his will. He remembered Earth's history of survival, how humans had hunted with traps and outsmarted beasts far stronger than themselves. Looking around, he saw loose stones, broken wires, and fragments of metal. Quickly, he set a trap, luring one of the machines onto unstable ground. With a crash, it fell, tangled in its own weight. Using the distraction, Daniel slipped past the others. When he emerged, battered but alive, the arena roared with voices. The Queen rose to her feet, her eyes shining with pride. The alien lords stared in silence, some with disbelief, others with growing respect. Daniel stood there, breathing heavily, sweat running down his face. He was exhausted, but he had not given up. And though the trial was not yet over, one thing was already clear. This human carried something the galaxy had forgotten: the flame of resolve. The crowd in the ancient arena had grown louder. Aliens of every rank filled the high seats, their eyes fixed on the lone human who stood at the center of the field. Daniel Hayes wiped sweat from his brow, his chest rising and falling as he struggled to catch his breath. His clothes were torn from the storm and the maze, his arms covered in bruises, but he was still standing. No one had expected him to survive the first trials. Yet he had endured, and now the final stage was about to begin. The Queen sat upon her silver throne, calm and composed. But her eyes never left Daniel. She saw the exhaustion in his steps, the weakness in his body, but also the fire that burned in his spirit. One of the alien lords stood at the edge of the arena, his voice thundering. "Human, you have survived storms and mazes. You have tricked our machines, but the final test cannot be escaped with tricks. It will measure the strength of your spirit. If you are truly the one of prophecy, let the flame within you shine here." The gates opened once more, and from the shadows came the last challenge. A beast emerged, larger than any Daniel had ever seen. Its body was covered in armored scales that gleamed under the alien sun. 6 glowing eyes stared at him, and a roar shook the ground as dust rose from the arena floor. The beast's claws dug into the stone, leaving deep marks, and its mouth dripped with thick steam. The crowd erupted in cheers and cries of awe. This creature had defeated many challengers before. It was known as the Guardian of the Trial, the final obstacle that none but the greatest had ever bested. Daniel's stomach twisted with fear. He had no weapon, no armor, no plan. The beast was too powerful. One strike from its claw could end him instantly. For a moment he thought of giving up. He thought of running, of falling to his knees and begging for mercy. But then, deep inside, he remembered the Queen's words. A flame no storm could extinguish. He thought of Earth, of his ancestors who had faced dangers far greater than themselves. They had fought predators with nothing but sticks and stones. They had crossed oceans without knowing what lay beyond. They had survived hunger, fire, and endless struggle. Humanity was fragile, yes, but humanity never gave up, and neither would he. Daniel tightened his fists and stood tall, though his body trembled. He whispered to himself, "I can't quit, not here. Not now." The beast roared again and charged. The ground shook with its steps. Daniel dodged to the side, barely escaping the swipe of its claw. Dust and stone exploded where the claw struck. The crowd gasped. Many believed he would fall in the first strike, yet he had moved with quick reflexes. Daniel kept running, his mind racing. He could not fight the beast head-on. He had to outthink it. That was humanity's strength, brains over brawn. He scanned the arena, searching for anything he could use. His eyes fell on the broken remains of the earlier machines, still lying scattered around. Pieces of metal, wires, and shards of crystal were everywhere. An idea sparked in his mind. He sprinted toward the debris, grabbing a long metal rod. The beast roared again and leaped, landing dangerously close. Daniel rolled across the ground, the rod clutched in his hand. His body screamed with pain, but he forced himself to move. He waved the rod at the beast, shouting to draw its attention. The massive creature turned, its glowing eyes locked on him. Daniel ran toward a section of cracked floor near the edge of the arena. He had noticed it earlier, where the acid storm had weakened the stone. The beast charged after him. Daniel stopped just before the cracked ground, planting the rod firmly into a gap. The beast lunged, its massive weight crashing down. The weakened stone shattered, and the ground collapsed beneath it. With a thunderous roar, the creature tumbled into the pit below, its armored body trapped in the rubble. The arena shook with the sound. Dust filled the air, and for a moment no one could see what had happened. When the dust cleared, the beast struggled in the pit, roaring in fury but unable to climb out. Daniel stood at the edge, panting heavily, his face pale but his eyes fierce. The crowd erupted in shouts of disbelief. Many aliens stood, unable to accept what they had just witnessed. A fragile human had defeated the Guardian of the Trial, not with strength but with courage and cleverness. The Queen rose to her feet. For the first time in many years, a smile touched her lips. Her voice rang out across the arena. "The trial is complete. The flame burns bright within him. The prophecy is fulfilled, but not everyone accepted it. Several lords shouted in anger, their voices echoing. This cannot be. It is trickery. He used chance, not strength. We cannot kneel to such weakness." The Queen silenced them with a single gesture. Her eyes glowed with authority. "Strength alone is blind. Power without wisdom is hollow. This human has shown us what we have forgotten, that the greatest power lies in endurance, in spirit, and in mind. That is why he is the one." Daniel, still catching his breath, looked around the arena. Thousands of alien eyes were upon him, some filled with admiration, some with doubt, but all with recognition. He had done something none of them expected. Inside, Daniel felt no pride, only relief that he was still alive. He wasn't sure if he was truly the chosen one of prophecy, but at that moment he understood one thing clearly. Humans had something that even the oldest empires had overlooked: the ability to rise, even when the world tried to break them. The Queen stepped down from her throne and walked toward him. The arena grew silent again. When she reached him, she placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "You have done more than survive," she said softly. "You have reminded us of who we once were, and for that, Daniel Hayes of Earth, you have my respect and my honor." Daniel lowered his head, humbled by her words. He wanted to tell her he wasn't special, that any human might have done the same. But the moment was bigger than his own doubts. The prophecy had been declared. The trial was complete, and the galaxy had just witnessed the unbroken spirit of humanity. The arena had gone silent. Even the winds seemed to pause as the Queen's words echoed through the high chamber of the alien court. Daniel Hayes stood in the center, battered, exhausted, and trembling from the last trial, but still standing. His mind raced with questions, yet the eyes of the Queen held a calm certainty that made him feel both nervous and reassured. The alien nobles whispered among themselves, their voices low but sharp. Some were angry, some skeptical, and some, Daniel noticed, were filled with admiration. They had witnessed a fragile human outwit, a beast that had destroyed countless challengers. Yet even now not all could accept what they had seen. The Queen rose from her silver throne and lifted her hands, silencing the murmurs instantly. Her voice rang clear and commanding. "Enough," she said. The trial was not merely to test the strength of body or the cleverness of mind. It was to reveal the truth of spirit. You have seen what this human can endure. You have seen what he can overcome without weapons or armies. And now you will understand why he is the one of prophecy. Daniel listened carefully, feeling the weight of her words. He had survived, yes, but he still did not fully understand what the prophecy meant. The Queen continued, her tone gentle but firm. Long ago our empire was powerful, proud and unyielding. We measured greatness in conquest, in armies, and in the strength to destroy. But in that pursuit, we lost something precious. We lost the knowledge that power alone cannot sustain a people. The flame of compassion, endurance, and hope, the true fire of life, was forgotten. Some of the nobles shifted uneasily in their seats. Daniel realized that the Queen was not merely praising him. She was reminding them of something ancient, something they had overlooked in their endless pursuit of dominance. You, the Queen said, turning to Daniel, have rekindled that flame. Humanity does not rely on the strength of muscle or the force of weapons. You survive and endure through courage, cleverness, and unbreakable spirit. That is why the prophecy speaks of a fragile one with a fire no storm can extinguish. That fire is yours. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. The words were beautiful, but he still felt like an ordinary human. Could a single man from Earth truly carry the weight of a prophecy meant to guide an empire? Before he could speak, a loud voice shattered the quiet. One of the most powerful alien lords stood, his armor gleaming like polished metal. "Enough of this foolishness," he bellowed. "A prophecy cannot dictate our empire. We cannot kneel to a human. This weak creature—" The Queen's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and the noble fell silent instantly. "Silence," she commanded. "Do not mistake anger for wisdom. Your doubts will be addressed soon enough. The human will show what it truly means to bear the flame." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He did not want confrontation, but he knew what she meant. There was one final test, one challenge that would prove whether humans were truly capable of standing among the stars. Later that day, the Queen led Daniel through a narrow corridor to a hidden chamber, far from the eyes of most of the court. The walls were carved with symbols of ancient battles, victories, and wisdom. At the center of the room stood a pedestal with a glowing crystal hovering above it. "This," the Queen explained, "is the mirror of truth. Those who face it see not only their own strength, but the challenges of the galaxy itself. It will test your heart, your resolve, and your ability to inspire." Daniel approached the crystal slowly. His reflection shimmered inside it, but then it changed. The crystal showed visions of worlds burning in conflict, planets collapsing under war, and civilizations falling into chaos. He saw humans on distant colonies struggling against famine, storms, and unknown threats. He saw aliens warring against each other, blinded by pride and ambition. A voice echoed from the crystal, gentle but insistent. "The weight of the galaxy is heavy. Will you carry it? Will you inspire those who have lost hope?" Daniel's knees shook. The visions were overwhelming. He had survived storms, mazes, and beasts, but this was different. This was not about strength or cleverness. It was about courage in the face of despair. He thought of Earth, of his home, of the people who had always survived against impossible odds. Humans were fragile, yes, but they endured. They found hope even when everything seemed lost. He took a deep breath. I will try, he whispered. The crystal pulsed with light. Suddenly, the chamber seemed to shift. He was no longer alone. Around him appeared shadows of the alien lords, their faces filled with doubt, suspicion, and some curiosity. They watched him closely. You must convince them, the voice said. Show them why the flame matters. Daniel raised his head. His voice grew stronger as he spoke. You see strength in power and conquest, but power without heart is empty. You think humans are weak because we are small, because we have no armies like yours. But the human spirit does not break. We endure storms, we survive disasters, and we rise after every fall. That is strength you cannot measure with weapons or machines. That is strength you cannot take from us. The shadows shifted. Some nodded, some frowned, and some looked surprised. Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest. His words, his heart, were reaching them. Then the crystal flared, showing one last vision. A massive invasion fleet heading toward a vulnerable world. The aliens in the vision were divided, unsure whom to trust. Daniel realized the weight of responsibility. The prophecy was not just about him. It was about humanity inspiring others, about uniting species that had forgotten hope. He looked at the Queen. I will do everything I can. Not for power, not for glory, but to show that hope and courage can change even the darkest situations. The crystal dimmed, and the chamber returned to normal. Daniel was alone again, but he felt different. He had faced not a beast, not a storm, but the weight of responsibility itself, and he had not faltered. Back in the main court, the nobles had gathered again, whispering furiously. The Queen entered, her presence commanding silence. The trial is complete, she said. Not by force, not by cunning alone, but by the spirit of endurance and hope. This human has faced the truth of the galaxy and remained unbroken. This is the meaning of the prophecy. This is why we honor him. A few lords still resisted, their pride wounded. It is not enough, one cried. A single human cannot carry the weight of worlds. The Queen's eyes glowed and she stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. You doubt what you see, because you have forgotten the strength of spirit. Look again. Watch him lead, endure, and inspire. Humanity may be fragile, but it carries a flame that will light the darkness of countless worlds. The nobles fell silent. Even those who doubted could feel the truth in her words. Daniel had proven himself not by strength, not by weapons, but by something far older, far stronger. Resolve, courage, and hope. Daniel stood at the center of the chamber, humbled but ready. The whispers of prophecy, once mysterious and distant, now made sense. It was not about domination. It was about endurance, inspiration, and the power of heart. The Queen knelt before him once more, her gesture clear to all present. This time it was not for ceremony alone. It was an honor for the courage, spirit, and hope Daniel had shown. In that moment, Daniel realized something profound. He was small, yes, but the fire within him could touch not only the Queen, not only the aliens of this empire, but the hearts of many across the galaxy. The prophecy was real. The flame had been lit, and humanity's story among the stars was only beginning. The sun of Velara cast long golden beams across the grand palace as the day of recognition began. Daniel Hayes stood at the center of the main hall, still exhausted from the trials, yet his posture was steady. The alien court had gathered once more, their eyes wide with anticipation. Some were still doubtful, others filled with cautious admiration, but all were curious to see what would happen next. The Queen, resplendent in her silver robes and glowing crown, rose from her throne. Her eyes scanned the room, pausing briefly on Daniel. Today, she began, her voice echoing across the hall, we witness not a man's strength, but his spirit. This human has shown endurance, wisdom, and courage in ways our history has rarely seen. It is time for all to understand what has been foretold by the prophecy. A hush fell over the court. Daniel's heart pounded. He had survived storms, mazes, beasts, and the mirror of truth. Now he was to face the final moment of acknowledgement, the public declaration that humanity, fragile and small in form, carried a flame no empire could ignore. The Queen gestured toward Daniel. "Step forward," she commanded. Daniel walked carefully, his feet moving slowly across the polished floor. The alien nobles watched him intently. Many of them had spent centuries in power, their pride vast and unyielding. But now even they felt the gravity of the moment. A human had faced challenges that had tested the empire itself, and he had not only survived but had shown something none of them could deny: hope, courage, and a spirit unbroken. The Queen lowered her head in a deep, ceremonial bow. Then, in a gesture that left the court silent with awe, she knelt before him. The sight was breathtaking. The ruler of an ancient, proud empire knelt before a human. Daniel's eyes widened. His mind struggled to process the scene. He had never imagined that his simple actions, his endurance and quick thinking could command such respect. Yet here it was, clear and undeniable. One of the nobles whispered, almost in disbelief, "Could it be that the prophecy is true?" Others nodded slowly. Even the most stubborn voices fell silent. The Queen's gesture was not merely symbolic. It carried the weight of history, judgment, and honor. Humanity had earned recognition. Daniel felt a mixture of humility and responsibility. He lowered his head respectfully. "I am honored," he said, his voice steady, though it carried the weight of exhaustion and disbelief. "But I am just one human. There are millions like me on Earth. It is humanity as a whole that carries this strength." The Queen's eyes glowed softly. "And that is exactly why you are the one of prophecy," she replied. "You represent the heart of your species. Small in form perhaps, but mighty in spirit. You have reminded us of what is truly important: courage, perseverance, and hope." The crowd remained silent, many still processing what they had witnessed. Daniel's words, simple as they were, carried the truth that the empire had long forgotten. It was not weapons, fleets, or size that determined greatness, but the flame of resolve within the heart. Over the next hours, the Queen addressed the empire's assembly of nobles, scholars, and generals. She recounted Daniel's trials, explaining each step of his journey and how he had survived storms, mazes, and the guardian of the trial. She spoke of his ingenuity, endurance, and spirit. "You have seen for yourselves," she said, her voice firm. "That strength comes in many forms. This human has shown us that even the smallest, most fragile among us can carry the light of hope. Humanity has earned its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through courage and the power of heart." Some nobles still hesitated, clinging to centuries of pride, yet even they could not ignore what they had seen. The trials had been public, witnessed by thousands, and the Queen's words carried the authority of a ruler who had never before bowed to anyone. Daniel, standing quietly, realized that this was bigger than any personal honor. He had become a symbol, not just of human strength, but of the qualities that made humanity special. He thought of Earth, its oceans, mountains, and cities, its people striving every day to endure, to learn, and to grow. In a strange way, he carried all of it with him. Later, the Queen summoned Daniel to her private chamber. The room was quieter than the grand hall, with soft light from the glowing crystals. She gestured for him to sit. "You have done more than survive," she said gently. "You have reminded us of what has been lost in our empire. You have reminded us that life is more than strength and conquest. Humanity carries a flame that cannot be extinguished. That is why I kneel before you. That is why I honor you." Daniel felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet pride mingled with humility. "I never expected this," he said softly. "I only wanted to do my best to survive the challenges. I didn't think it would mean this." The Queen smiled. "You have done more than you know. Your actions, your courage, and your endurance will be remembered across generations. You have inspired not only humans, but all who witness this day. The galaxy will see humanity in a new light." News of Daniel's trials and the Queen's gesture spread quickly across the empire. Alien civilizations that had once dismissed humans as weak or insignificant now paused and reconsidered. Scholars wrote of the human spirit. Generals spoke of their endurance. Diplomats spoke of their ingenuity and courage. On Earth, Daniel's story reached governments, scientists, and ordinary people. They were amazed to hear of a human standing in the center of an alien empire, tested against impossible challenges, and earning the respect of a queen whose empire spanned countless worlds. Daniel returned to the surface world of Velara, not as a conqueror, but as a representative of the human spirit. Wherever he went, aliens paused to observe, to listen, and to learn. Humanity, small but resilient, had earned its place among the stars, not through force, but through courage, intelligence, and the unbroken flame of hope. Months later, Daniel stood on the observation deck of the Velaran Palace, looking at the galaxy stretched before him. Stars glittered like diamonds in the blackness, each one a world full of life, challenges, and possibility. He felt a sense of wonder and responsibility. Humanity's story had only just begun. The Queen approached silently and placed a hand on his shoulder. "The galaxy will test you further, Daniel Hayes, but remember this. It is not strength alone that will guide your people. It is courage, wisdom, and the ability to endure. Humanity has the flame. Never forget that." Daniel nodded. "I won't," he said. "I will do my best for Earth, for humans, and for the hope that connects all life." The Queen's eyes shone with approval. "Then go and let your example inspire others. The stars are wide and your journey is only beginning." As Daniel looked out at the infinite expanse of the galaxy, he realized that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology or armies, but the flame of its spirit. He had faced storms, beasts, and doubt, yet he had endured. He had inspired an empire and reminded them of what truly mattered. And now, standing among the stars, he knew that humanity's journey had just begun. But the flame would burn bright, lighting the way for generations to come. The Queen knelt once more in public, before the entire court, and Daniel felt the honor settle around him like a protective light. The moment was not just for him, it was for all of humanity. A species that had survived against the odds, that had faced impossible challenges and emerged unbroken, was now recognized among the stars. Humanity had earned its place not through fear or domination, but through courage, endurance, and hope. And Daniel Hayes, a single man from Earth, had become a symbol of what it truly meant to be human. The stars stretched endlessly above, full of mystery and promise. And for the first time, Daniel felt that humans were ready, not just to survive but to inspire, to unite, and to thrive among the galaxy's greatest civilizations.